Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 8, Day 12, coming at you live and direct. Alright, so we're going to take it back to the 70s, film from the US, specifically 1971, with a very, very low-budget filmmaker, and he goes by the name of Ray Dennis Steckler. He was kind of known in his time period as being like that period's like Ed Wood. I've heard him being compared to Ed Wood, but we know there was a lot of type of low-budget indie filmmakers of the 60s and early 70s and stuff that became very big cult directors. We all know Herschel Gordon Lewis, of course. There was Andy Milligan, that kind of lived in the shadows of these guys. And of course, Ray Dennis Steckler, who, in my opinion, those three filmmakers make a lot of films that are super entertaining, but they're really not for everybody. They're super low-grade, low-budget kind of films that really you gotta have that cult-loving to really like, kind of thing. So the film I'm going to talk about today is from 1971, and it's called Blood Shack. That's not really doing it. It's from the box set that Severin put out, The Incredible Strange Films of Ray Dennis Steckler. Blood Shack from 1971. Maybe I'll put a poster up in the video here. I'll give you a little bit better idea of what the artwork. They use this type of artwork on there. So with a title like Blood Shack, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. This is obviously that proto slasher territory, which I fucking hate that term. Everybody knows I hate the word proto slasher. This one plays out like a slasher film. It really does. So essentially what the narrative is in this, the synopsis of the film is basically, it's about this girl played by Carol Brand, who is actually married to Ray Dennis Steckler at the time. She inherits this land, her family's land. It's out in the desert, and she goes to claim it and stuff like that. And this shack, this blood shack, has a history, basically, where bad shit happens. So basically, anybody that goes to this shack ends up dead, essentially, is what happens. So, and that's exactly what happens. She goes to the shack, and some people go into the shack, and they end up dead. So that's the whole premise of the film. Now, my thoughts on Blood Shack. Now, I had no idea going into this movie that it was so short. So this is the second time this has happened to me during this 31 Days of Horror. I've had two films that ran just under an hour long. I had no idea. I picked this movie because I'd never seen this one before. I've actually only seen a couple different Ray Dennis Steckler films, which is The Incredibly Strange Creatures, Who Stopped Living Became Mixed Up Zombies, and I've also seen The Thrill Killers. So this is like the third or fourth film I've ever seen from Ray Dennis Steckler. So I had no idea what the running time was. There apparently is a longer version on here, I think, that runs about 70 minutes, but apparently it's like another 15 minutes of just padding of like this rodeo shit that he shot. And there's already enough of that padding in this to begin with. So yeah, Blood Shack basically plays out like a standard kind of slasher film. I mean, people go to an area and they get picked off one by one. Now, is it any good? No. This movie's terrible. It's really terrible. It's oddly entertaining though, for what it is. It just feels like a super, super low budget regional family made film. I mean, and what I mean by that, like Carol Brand, who was nice enough to sign my box set for me because I met her at Wasteland last year. Very, very nice lady, and she's absolutely beautiful in the film. She's obviously a lot younger here. I think she was like in her early 20s and married to Ray Dennis Steckler at the time. I believe that she was married to him at the time, or she became married, they became a couple, but obviously it's like a family affair. Like, she's in the film. There's a couple kids in the movie that are obviously his children because they have the same last name as him, so I'm assuming that they're the kids and stuff like that. And the cast is very small in this movie too. So it just feels very low budget, very regional, very, very minimal script. There's definitely a little bit of padding in a 55-minute film. Like I said, there's a rodeo scene where it kind of goes on and on and on and stuff like that. There's some mindless dialogue and things like that. But overall, I found myself being oddly entertained. I like movies like this. They're definitely not for everybody. And like I said, is it a good movie? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, the acting actually isn't that bad. I think Carol Brand is actually pretty good in the film. The kids are what they are. They're not really actors. They did a pretty good job in a couple sequences with quite a bit of dialogue that they had to memorize. I was quite impressed by it. And they spit it out pretty good and stuff like that. But overall, there's no real story here. I mean, what we get is, we know that there's a history behind this shack. And if you go there, there's a killer known as the Trooper. shows up with a sword and fucking and kills you and stuff, but you're not really overly clear if it's like a haunting, like a supernatural thing, or if it's actually like a physical human that's doing it until you kind of get into it. Like I went into it perceiving that it was going to be more supernatural because they're like, oh, this place is haunted by this killer called the Trooper. No, he's more of a physical being that's kind of a fucking pussy, to be honest. But yeah, the film opens up with a girl getting dropped off by her friend, and she's like, I want to go stay in the blood shack. Anyway, she goes in there and she gets dead, right? So, I mean, there's a little bit of blood in the film overall with the kills. The body count's pretty minimal. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 people that die in the movie. But yeah, with a title like Blood Shack, you would expect it to be a little bit bloody. There is a little bit of blood. There is a shack, so the title's quite literal. But as for the movie, it just feels like he's waiting to get to that, that 5 minutes, kind of finale in the movie and stuff like that. There's not really a whole lot going on in this one. It's a lot of wandering around. There's a lot of scenes with Carol Brand just wandering around the property and doing narration. Like, she narrates the movie. Like, it's like her thoughts. Like, we get to hear her thoughts out loud by her narration, and it's like, okay, there's literally like no story. So it's just kind of a mindless film that feels, what it is. It's very, very low budget. It doesn't even look that bad. Like I said, it's actually shot pretty well. The editing's not bad. Like, it's put together like a decent film, super, super low budget, but, at the same time, it feels like a real film. It's just 55 minutes long with padding. So, unfortunately, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more story, maybe some more kills, maybe some more blood and stuff like that. With a title like Blood Shack, you're kind of let down by that a little bit. But all in all, man, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I've seen way worse movies than this, believe it or not. But if I have to rate this one, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. And I'm not going to say don't go out and watch this movie at all. It's just, for me personally, I thought it was minorly entertaining. It had some elements that I really enjoyed and stuff. But it just feels tonally off at times, because there's certain moments in the film where it does feel like a horror film, right? And that music feels, the music in those parts feels like a horror film. And then there's other parts where it feels like you're watching like the fucking Brady Bunch or the Last House on the Prairie and stuff like that. Like, it's got that type of tone to it with the kids and the music and stuff. And you're just like, what the fuck? It's like super off-putting. But I get that, it's got the kids element. You got to kind of lighten the mood and stuff like that. But overall, it didn't really work for me. But again, I'm not going to say don't go out and watch this one. If you're a fan of Ray Dennis Ackler and you've never seen this one, you probably know what you're getting yourself into with the quality type of film. So I would say, check it out at your own risk. It's probably not something I'm going to go back to anytime soon. The other ones that I've seen from Ray Dennis Ackler were a lot more fun for myself, but it is what it is. Not really a whole lot to say about Blood Shack, unfortunately. So, but yeah, so pretty cool. But this is an amazing box set. I mean, they really put in a lot of damn work with this. Severin is the best when it comes to box sets. So, but yeah, that's going to do it here for day 12. No, we're on day 11, right? No, this is day 12. I keep forgetting what days, man. It's so easy to forget what day you're on. It's so random. But anyways, that's going to conclude day 12, guys. I think tomorrow and day 13, we are going to be going to Japan, I believe, for a Japanese film. And it's actually a newer film, too, that I've been wanting to check out. So stay tuned for that one, and I'll check you guys later. And as usual, deuces.